In a world full of noise, sometimes all we need is a story. Welcome to Hopeful and Soul Stories, where every voice matters and every heart finds a home. Sit back, feel the words, and let your soul listen. Kieran Matthews locked the glass doors of Matthews Financial Group and stood for a moment looking at the empty lobby. The Christmas tree his assistant had insisted on putting up glowed softly in the corner, decorated with silver ornaments that matched the building's modern aesthetic perfectly. Everything about the space screamed success: the marble floors, the designer furniture, the awards lining the walls. At 39, Kieran had built exactly the life he'd planned. CEO of one of the most successful investment firms in the city, penthouse apartment with views that stretched for miles, enough wealth to buy anything he wanted. His face appeared regularly in business magazines, always with the same confident smile that projected competence and control. It was Christmas Eve, and he was the last person in the building. His employees had all left hours ago, rushing home to families and parties and traditions. Kieran had stayed late because there was nothing waiting for him at home except expensive furniture and silence. His parents had retired to Florida 5 years ago, and he saw them maybe once a year. His younger sister lived in London with her family, and they exchanged polite messages but weren't close. There had been relationships over the years, but none that had survived his devotion to work, his inability to prioritize anything above the next deal or acquisition. The snow had started falling hours ago, and now it blanketed the city in white. Kieran pulled his coat tighter as he stepped outside, the cold biting at his face. The streets were quieter than usual, most people already home or heading there. The holiday lights reflected off the snow, creating a scene that would have been beautiful if Kieran had felt anything but emptiness. He was walking toward where his car was parked when he saw her, a young woman sitting in the doorway of a closed shop trying to shield herself from the wind. She wore a thin coat that was clearly inadequate for the weather, and her blonde hair was damp with melted snow. She was maybe in her late 20s, and even from a distance, Kieran could see she was shivering. Most people walked past her without a glance, wrapped up in their own holiday plans. Kieran almost did the same. It wasn't that he didn't care exactly, but what could he do? Give her some money and feel better about himself for 5 minutes before returning to his own problems? But something made him stop. Maybe it was the date, the weight of spending another Christmas completely alone. Maybe it was the way she was trying so hard to make herself small, invisible, as if apologizing for taking up space in the world. "Excuse me," Kieran said, crouching down to her level. "Are you all right?" The woman looked up, and Kieran was struck by her eyes, a clear blue-green that held a mix of weariness and exhaustion. "I'm fine, thank you." "You don't look fine. You look freezing. When did you last eat?" "I'm managing," she said, her pride evident despite her circumstances. "I don't need charity." "It's Christmas Eve," Kieran said. "Nobody should be alone on the street on Christmas Eve. At least let me buy you a warm meal." The woman studied his face for a long moment, clearly trying to decide if he was genuine or dangerous.
"Finally," she said.
"Why do you care? Most people don't even see me." "Maybe because I understand what it's like to be invisible," Kieran replied, surprising himself with his honesty. They found a light diner a few blocks away, one of the few places still open. As the woman who introduced herself as Emma thawed out over coffee and hot soup, Kieran learned her story. She'd been a teacher before everything fell apart. Her fiancé had died in a car accident 2 years ago, and the grief had overwhelmed her. She'd lost her job, then her apartment, then her grip on stability itself. For the past 8 months, she'd been living on the streets, working occasional day labor jobs, trying to save enough to get back on her feet. "I know I look like a failure," Emma said, stirring her soup without eating it. "Like someone who made terrible choices and deserves what happened to her." "That's not what I see," Kieran said quietly. "I see someone who's been through something devastating and is still trying to survive." "Surviving isn't the same as living," Emma said with a sad smile. "I just exist day to day trying to stay warm and fed and safe. I can't even remember what it felt like to have purpose or hope or a future." Kieran felt those words strike something deep inside him. Wasn't that exactly how he'd been living? Going through the motions of success while feeling nothing, existing instead of actually living. Where will you go tonight?
He asked.
There's a shelter about a mile from here, Emma said. If they still have beds available. If not, I'll find somewhere. Kieran looked out the window at the snow, which was now falling harder. The temperature had dropped dramatically, and the news had been warning about a dangerous cold front moving in, letting Emma walk to a shelter that might be full, leaving her to find somewhere to sleep in this weather. It felt unconscionable. Come stay at my place, Kieran heard himself say. Emma's eyes widened. What? No, I couldn't. I have a 3-bedroom penthouse, and I live there alone. Kieran continued. You can have your own room with a lock on the door, hot shower, warm bed, safe space. Just for tonight. Tomorrow is Christmas, and you can decide what you want to do, but tonight you shouldn't be on the streets in this cold. You don't even know me, Emma protested. I could rob you, or something. You could, Kieran agreed. But I don't think you will, and honestly, everything in my apartment is just stuff. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you'll be safe and warm. Emma looked at him with tears in her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because it's Christmas Eve and I was going home to an empty apartment to eat takeout alone and pretend I don't notice that my life is as empty as the plates I'll throw away tomorrow, Kieran said with brutal honesty. Because maybe helping you helps me too. Because can you stay for just one night and maybe we'll both feel a little less alone? Emma was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Just one night, Kieran's penthouse was everything Emma had imagined wealthy people lived in and nothing she'd ever experienced. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, sparkling with Christmas lights and snow. The furniture looked like it belonged in a magazine. Everything was pristine and perfect and utterly without personality. It's beautiful, Emma said softly. It's cold, Kieran replied. I never really made it a home, just a place I sleep between work days. He showed Emma to the guest room, which had its own bathroom. He gave her towels, showed her where everything was, and left her alone to shower and settle in. He'd laid out some of his clothes for her to sleep in since hers were damp and worn. An hour later, Emma emerged wearing his sweatpants and oversized sweater, her hair clean and drying, looking more like a person and less like someone who'd been slowly disappearing. The transformation was striking. I forgot what hot water felt like, she said, nearly crying. I forgot what it felt like to be clean. They sat in Kieran's living room, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. Kieran had ordered Chinese food delivery, one of the few places still operating, and they ate together in comfortable silence. Tell me about your fiancé, Kieran said gently. And Emma did. She told him about David, about their plans to get married and start a family, about how they'd been 2 months from their wedding when a drunk driver had taken him away. She told him about the spiral that followed, the depression that swallowed her whole, the way she'd pushed away everyone who tried to help until there was no one left. I couldn't save him, Emma whispered. And I couldn't save myself either. Maybe you don't need to save yourself, Kieran said. Maybe you just need to take one step forward, then another until you remember how to walk again. Did I ask that what you're doing? Emma asked. Walking? I'm standing still? Kieran admitted, I've been standing still for years, building things and acquiring things and achieving things, but never actually moving toward anything that matters. What would matter? Emma asked. Connection, Kieran said. Purpose beyond profit margins. Coming home to someone who cares whether I had a good day. Having someone to care about in return all the things I told myself I didn't need because I was too busy building success. They talked through the night. Two lonely people who'd found each other on Christmas Eve and discovered they had more in common than either had expected. Emma told stories about her students, about the joy of teaching, and how much she missed it. Kieran talked about his parents and sister, about how he'd let those relationships atrophy because he was always too busy for visits or calls. As dawn approached on Christmas morning, Emma said, I should go. You've done more than enough. What if you didn't go?
Kieran asked.
What if you stayed a few more days, got your strength back, figured out your next steps from a place of stability instead of desperation? Kieran, I can't take advantage of your kindness. You're not taking advantage. I'm asking, stay through New Year's at least. Let me help you get back on your feet. I have connections. I can help you find a job, get you set up with proper housing. Consider it my Christmas present to myself. doing something that actually matters. Emma studied his face in the early morning light. What do you get out of this? The chance to not be alone, Kieran said simply. The chance to help someone and maybe remember what it feels like to care about something beyond my next quarterly report. The chance to have a friend who sees me as just a person, not as a CEO or a bank account. Emma stayed. One night became a week, then two. Kieran helped her get her documents in order, connected her with his HR department who needed someone with teaching experience for their employee training programs. He helped her find a small but affordable apartment and co-signed her lease when she didn't have credit history. But more than the practical help, they helped each other heal. Emma reminded Kieran what it meant to care about another person's well-being, to have someone to talk to over morning coffee, to share small moments that made life worth living. Kieran gave Emma the stability and support she needed to rebuild her sense of self-worth. To remember that one tragedy didn't define her entire existence. I think I was meant to find you, Emma said one evening about a month after that first Christmas Eve. They were cooking dinner together in Kieran's kitchen, something they'd started doing regularly. Or maybe you were meant to find me. Maybe we were meant to find each other, Kieran replied. Two people who'd forgotten how to live, reminding each other what matters. Their relationship evolved slowly, carefully. Kieran didn't want to take advantage of Emma's vulnerable position, and Emma didn't want to confuse gratitude with deeper feelings. But over time, something genuine grew between them, built on mutual respect and understanding, and the kind of intimacy that comes from really seeing each other. A year after that snowy Christmas Eve, they were married in a simple ceremony. Emma had her own career again, teaching corporate training and loving every minute of it. Kieran had cut his work hours and started actually living in his penthouse instead of just sleeping there. They'd made it a home together, filling it with warmth and laughter, and the kind of love that only comes from two people who've learned what really matters. On their first Christmas together as a married couple, as they sat watching snow fall over the city, Emma said, "Do you remember what you said that first night? Can you stay for just one night?" "I remember," Kieran said, holding her close. "I stayed for just one night," Emma continued. "And then another and another until one night became forever. You saved my life that Christmas Eve. You saved mine too," Kieran replied. "I was drowning in success and suffocating from loneliness. You showed me that everything I'd built meant nothing without someone to share it with. Because sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the most unexpected packages. A homeless woman in a doorway, a lonely CEO with an empty apartment, a single night that becomes forever. Sometimes saving someone else is how we save ourselves. And sometimes the best decision we ever make is choosing not to walk past someone who needs help, but to stop, to see them, to offer them one night of warmth and safety, and discover in doing so that we've found the home we'd been searching for all along. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that the greatest gifts we can give are compassion and connection, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about finding love in unexpected places, the courage to help others, and discovering that true wealth is measured in relationships, not possessions. Comment below about a time when helping someone change your own life, or about learning to see the humanity in people society overlooks. Sometimes the person we stop to help is actually the person who saves.